Gao Xiang, of course, didn't know that, as his boat left the beach, someone suddenly came out from under a cover on another speedboat. That person was He Tianxiong, smiling darkly and happily. "Go on, go on," he mumbled joyfully. Suddenly, he had a strange thought. Why was Gao Xiang alone? Where were the other people involved? Was Gao Xiang the other person? But He Tianxiong only thought about it for a moment before laughing happily again. He was in a perfect winning position. Everyone thought he was dead. Only the lame man knew he wasn't. But the lame man had died from the poison in his ring. He was a dead man who was still alive, going to get the death ray weapon and its plans. Because he was dead, no one would notice him. He would take all attention away from himself, easily get the weapon, and then sell it to a country that needed it, earning a lot of money. Of course, after the job was done, he could come back to life. By then, everyone would realize they had been tricked by his smart plan. But by then, he would have won. He Tianxiong remembered all the plans he had made near that small island, and he laughed even more happily, his laugh sounding like a night owl. Gao Xiang's speedboat went fast across the sea. He opened the map, found turtle-shaped islet, and steered towards it. When his watch showed 11:46, he could already see the island. Just then, the fog suddenly cleared, and a half-moon shone brightly, lighting up the sea. Gao Xiang slowed down the boat. At 11:55, his speedboat moved quietly along the right side of the island. He saw a white yacht tied up in a small bay. Gao Xiang turned off the speedboat's engine. The boat moved silently across the water, stopping exactly next to the yacht. The yacht looked very fancy from the outside. He stood up. He expected that as soon as he stood up, someone on the yacht would appear and ask him questions. But even though there was light from the yacht, he stood for a whole minute, and no one noticed him. Gao Xiang felt a little surprised. He got onto the yacht. His speedboat slid forward and stopped next to some rocks on the beach, not moving anymore. Gao Xiang quickly got his balance on the yacht's deck. As soon as he did, he immediately ducked down, because right after he stood up, he saw a person lying flat on the deck in front of him. The person wore a white sailor shirt, but under the moonlight, a bright red stain was in the middle of the white shirt. It was a dead man, shot in the back, lying face down. After ducking, Gao Xiang quickly rolled to a pile of ropes. He pulled out his gun and flipped over. The moment his hand grabbed the gun, a hand from the other side of the ropes suddenly hit down with a thwack. Gao Xiang jumped up, his finger on the trigger, ready to shoot. But he quickly saw it wasn't needed. The person was already dead. His body lay against the other end of the ropes. When Gao Xiang leaned on the ropes, the body moved, and a hand fell down. It was another sailor, also shot in the back. The blood on his white uniform was an even more shocking sight. 2 of them. Gao Xiang counted quietly. Why were the sailors on the yacht killed? Was he too late? Gao Xiang's mind worked fast. He crawled forward on the deck, reaching the lit-up cabin door. He looked into the cabin and saw it was a complete mess. A person lay bent over a fallen chair. Gao Xiang stood up, pushed open the cabin door, and went in. The person bent over the chair suddenly made a groaning sound. Gao Xiang stopped quickly. The person slowly raised his head. It was a dark-faced, middle-aged man, about 40 years old. They ... His voice was very weak. They ... What about them? Gao Xiang quickly bent down. There were many of them. They searched for an hour. They searched for an hour. Did they take the item? No. A forced smile appeared on the dark-faced man's face. They didn't find it. Gao Xiang felt relieved. Where is it? Tell me. You. ... Who are you? Son. Gao Xiang remembered the secret word. Son. The middle-aged man's voice became even weaker. My ... My watch. ... Watch. ... Watch? Gao Xiang didn't understand. Watch ... Double quotes. The middle-aged man's voice faded. Suddenly, Gao Xiang understood. People had heard that the death ray weapon was very small, but no one thought such a powerful weapon could be as small as a wristwatch. Gao Xiang quickly bent down, grabbed the man's wrist, and looked closely at the watch. It looked like a normal watch, just a bit bigger. Next to the winding knob, there was another knob about half a centimeter long. Gao Xiang quickly took off the watch. The middle-aged man's hand fell limp. It seemed the middle-aged man was also dead. Gao Xiang held the watch to his ear. There was no ticking sound. He pressed a button on the back of the watch, and suddenly a beam of light shot out from the long knob. Gao Xiang was scared and quickly let go. A death ray watch, a death ray weapon, made small enough to be a wristwatch. Gao Xiang's heart beat fast. He didn't look at the middle-aged man again. He just thought the man was dead. He had looked closely. He might have seen that things were not so simple, because the middle-aged man sometimes opened one eye to watch him. Gao Xiang was not usually careless. But now, he didn't care at all, because he had never thought the death ray weapon could be made so small and perfectly. Gao Xiang knew almost nothing about what the death ray weapon could do. When he accidentally pressed it earlier, and a beam of light shot out, it scared him a lot. Also, he had the death ray watch, but where were the plans to build it? Just having the watch wasn't enough to finish his mission. He needed to keep searching the yacht for the death ray weapon's building plans. At this moment, Gao Xiang didn't have time to think about why everyone on this yacht was dead, or why even those who brought the weapon couldn't escape. He just searched carefully and cleverly through the cabin for any places where the plans might be hidden. Time passed. After about 6 or 7 minutes, Gao Xiang suddenly stopped. He hadn't found anything. He stopped just to tilt his head and listen carefully. On the sea, next to the empty island, at midnight, it should have been completely silent. But as Gao Xiang listened, he heard a very quiet, steady sound coming from inside the cabin. The sound was like a watch ticking. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Because the sound was so quiet, Gao Xiang couldn't find where it was coming from right away. He raised his arm and held his own watch to his ear. No, it wasn't his watch. His watch wasn't that loud. He took out the death ray watch, but it made no sound at all. He looked around the cabin. There were no other watches. Time bomb. Escape. Suddenly, Gao Xiang felt his hair stand up. 4 big words came to his mind. Time bomb. That must be the sound of the bomb ticking. He quickly stepped back, even though the death ray weapon plans were important. If he was blown into pieces, who would get the 200,000 pounds? He turned and ran out of the cabin, jumped into his speedboat, untied the rope, and started the engine. The speedboat almost flew across the water. After Gao Xiang left, the dark-faced middle-aged man immediately jumped up from the floor. He looked around, then went to a table. He moved an oil painting on the wall. Behind the painting was a metal door. The middle-aged man opened the door. Inside was a wireless phone. The man picked up the phone and said, "Is that Boss He?" Gao Xiang Yang left. That fool left. From the phone, He Tianxiong's quiet voice came, saying, "He left. What time is it now?" The middle-aged man stopped, as if he didn't understand why He Tianxiong asked that. He said, "I don't have a watch, because I was supposed to wear that death ray watch." He Tianxiong's voice was cold. "I can tell you, it is now 0:59 a.m. Boss, what does that mean? Fool. You are the fool. Why didn't you try to keep Gao Xiang on the boat longer? Boss, he suddenly left. What good would keeping him longer do?" The middle-aged man's face began to change, and his voice shook a little. He seemed to realize something bad was happening. Boss He's owl-like laugh echoed through the phone. "Boss! Boss! Boss ... ... double quotes." The middle-aged man cried out, full of fear. 10, 9, 8, 7... ... Boss He suddenly stopped laughing and started counting numbers. Middle-aged man held the phone, looking around helplessly, his face already a pale gray, like death. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2... ... Double quotes. He Tianxiong kept counting. "No!" The middle-aged man screamed with a broken heart. But as soon as he said no, a very loud explosion happened. That time bomb used to blow up a yacht was much too big for the job. Gao Xiang was half a mile away by then, but the explosion was still very loud to him, and the shockwave tossed his small boat around. He looked ahead. In the bright fireball, the yacht, like a paper toy, broke into many small pieces. They flew into the air like ashes, carried by water. The fireball quickly went out. Far away, 1 or 2 sounds echoed. Then it was silent again. Gao Xiang let out a long breath, wiped his forehead, and found his hand covered in cold sweat. He had left the yacht only 3 or 4 minutes earlier. If he had left 3 minutes later... Thinking of this, Gao Xiang couldn't help but sigh again, secretly happy about his luck. Even though he hadn't gotten the death ray weapon plans, it was likely no one else could either. After such a big explosion, nothing could stay whole